What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to improve your conversations. So, I think everyone has had a point where they started, and rather they're good at conversations now, where they can carry a conversation, they can move forward, or you're also the type of person where you find like social awkwardness in having conversations. You don't know what to talk about. You don't know how to carry the conversation. You're trying to figure out how not to make it awkward, when to leave, how to approach, all of that. And we're going to cover that in this video. So I say that the first thing to improving a conversation is be a listener. A lot of people, when you're in the conversation, you want to be the person that's just talking about you, talking about the situation, I say situation as in like the environment, right? If you're in class, you want to talk about everything that's going on with what you got going. If you're out and about, you want to talk about whatever you're feeling or whatever vibe you got going on. But if you put the other person in perspective and you let them talk about whatever the case is, then they will actually have a conversation with you. They will actually, especially if they're more shy and you try to, get them to talk, or you try to, bring them out of their social bubble, then you will actually get a conversation out of them. And listening carries conversations, because the person, like, people love to feel heard, right? If you're in a conversation and a person doesn't feel heard, you cut them off, they're very short-ended responses, then the other person may not feel as intrigued to want to continue the conversation, or they just aren't really into, trying to talk, right? So you got to know how to be able to read that. But listen to what the other person is saying and listen to what they're explaining and what they're really passionate about. People, they start super shy, right? They'll be like, so, we're up here at the park. Like, do you like to take walks? I don't really take walks like during the day, but like at nighttime, I love to go biking because it's really cool. I can take my dog out and I feel really fine. Like whenever the sun is setting, it's a really pretty view, yada, yada. And you can continue the conversation from there to be like, oh, what type of dog do you have? Right. That goes into my next point. Have questions, like follow-up questions. Okay, you have a dog. What type of dog do you have? How long have you had the dog for? Your dog must be your best friend, huh? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, continue the conversation, but make it a little bit like, not like an interview, right, where you're just asking question after question, but have it where, it's really playful, right? Really lighthearted. It doesn't have to be a super serious conversation, but it's just a conversation. It's not an interview, but some people, whenever you say ask questions, you're just like, so what's your favorite color? Oh, so what made you wear this today? Also, do you like being out here? Like, you start asking questions with no like really sense of direction, for one, but for two, it feels more of an interview. No matter what they say, you just have a question. That's not what you want to go for. So whenever people are talking, listen to what they're passionate about. Listen to what makes them like, get up, what makes them a little bit joyful, what makes them a little bit more enthusiastic in what they're talking about. If a person really likes coming out here and going to the park to really take a walk and go with their dog, that might just like having that downtime to spend with their dog, right? They might actually like nature. They might like being active. Like, there's so many things in what people say that if you just dig a little bit deeper, that you might actually be able to find an actual conversation to have. And so, follow-up questions and active listening, because if you don't listen to what they're talking about, you don't know what questions to ask. You don't know what questions to actually follow up with, for one, but for two, you actually aren't engaged in the conversation. And that leads to number three, be engaged with the conversation. Enjoy the moment that you're having with that person, even if it's for a short period of time. People don't really like focus for a long period of time. People just they'll be attentive to something and then they're like, okay, what's next, right? They'll be attentive to something. Okay, what's next, right? They're looking for like whatever is going to really catch their attention, and a conversation can be that. Especially if you're the type of person that's like, look, I like intellectual conversations. I like being present in the conversation. You don't want to be the person that's like, present, and then the other person is not as present, because y'all have nothing to talk about. You have nothing to actually relate on. So if you're sitting there, you're being active, you're listening actively, you're asking responsive questions, and then you're also giving attention to the person, that's rather facing towards them, that's rather looking at them, that's rather nodding, right? That's rather saying, oh, okay, I got you. Oh, yeah, like little comments, right? Making sure that the other person knows that you are aware of what they're talking about, that you're actively listening to what they're talking about. And if you're like, look, I don't even know where to start in a conversation. I don't know what to talk about. Whenever I have a conversation, I like to talk about whatever is relative, right? It could be about what they have on. It could be about where we're at. It could be the music that we're playing. It could be about the people that we're with, and you just really move from there. If it's like we're out and about, and I see something on a billboard, or, I see something like, I say out and about as in like you're just out in the city, or like maybe if you're out at a club or something, you could be talking about the music, you could be talking about, dancing, you could be talking about other people if you want to, like, because sometimes people look goofy. And if you kind of approach a person and you're like, look at this person, like, look what they got going on, or whatever the case is, like, y'all can start that, laugh over it, and then you keep moving from there, right? And it doesn't have to be like a girl and boy type of conversation. It's like just in general, whenever you're talking to people, and trying to overcome the social anxiety and the social bubble that you have. Because the more that you can overcome that, the more social you can be, the more connections you can be able to build with people, and genuine connections, not just, oh, I know that person, or I know about that person. It's like, I actually have had a conversation with them. I know that they're a cool person. This is what they have going on. They listen to me about whatever I have going on. And then you go from there, right? So, do that, do those things. Be active in listening, be present, be aware of what the conversation is actually talking about, and just be able to ask responsive questions. Number 4 that I would say is have a story. People love story times, right? People love to be able to listen to something that's going to really keep them engaged. So, a person can be like, oh, I really like to go to the park. I like to take a walk with my dog at nighttime because it's a lot cooler, right? Like I was saying, it's a lot cooler. It's a lot better because I can be able to like not worry about a bunch of people, and I can be able to do my own thing. And then I can come back and be like, well, I really like going on a walk at nighttime too, but man, you won't believe what happened to me one time. They're already engaged. They're like, what happened to you? What happened? Like, tell me about it. And you could be like, man, I was walking late at night, and one time I had my earbuds in, and I saw that this, coyote came out of nowhere. I couldn't really tell what it looked like, but I saw the eyes and they were glowing, and it was like so scary. But I like stopped what I was doing. I had to take my AirPods out, and I really focused on what was looking at me. And long and behold, they were just some lights. Right? They weren't even, it wasn't even a coyote, or it wasn't even an animal, but it just turned out to be like some lights or something. But like, just like that, like you're more engaged, right? They're like, okay, well, what's next? What's going to happen? Did you have to run from the coyote? Did you have to, like, how'd you escape? Like, where'd you have to run to? Like, did you have to jump over stuff? Did you jump into someone's backyard? Did you get in your car? Like, did you live close? Like, people are engaged in story times. So, that's why people love movies and blogs and vlogs. Like, people love stories, seeing other people's lives, right? And the more that you understand that, then the more you can be able to relate, right? Someone might be able to relate. Like, yeah, one time I did. Like, I was going and I was walking around, and I saw like this dog, but I thought it was like a little, like a little whatever, like a little wolf or whatever, right? And then y'all could relate with that. And you just never know what someone else has been through to know how they can relate to your story already. So, that's another thing. Just having story times and really being able to be like, yeah, this is what's happened in my life, or like, and not like in a selfish way, but like in an intriguing way to keep the conversation going. Don't start the conversation and be like, hey, so what do you like about the color red? Oh, okay, like you are, what, or not what do you like, what's your favorite color? And they're like, oh, my favorite color is red. And I'm like, man, I remember this one time, so my mom's favorite color is red, and I actually went to the store, and we were, it's Valentine's Day, and I wanted to treat her, so we got her red this, red that, red this, red that. Like, don't be so quick to just go into a story time, or like go into something that relates back to you. Be able to find the sweet spot to know when to actually talk about, a true story time, or about something that's happened to you. Because some people, they don't really, they don't know how to read the room, right? And that's another thing. You got to know how to read the conversation. Can you actually even have a conversation in that moment? If you're at a bar or you're at a club, having a conversation won't be as effective because you got to scream, you got to yell, you can't really hear what the other person is saying. It's not a genuine conversation, right? It's just like a really quick thing, and then you got to move on, right? But if you're at an event or you're at a gathering, right? You're at the house and people came over, whatever the case is, people actually are able to sit down with you, they're able to listen to you, and as long as they're not busy, then just have the conversation with them, right? So, I mean, it doesn't have to be as hard. It doesn't have to be that hard. And going to approaching, I know I said I would talk about that. How to approach someone, like I said, use something that's relative. You know, if we got the Cowboys game on, you'd be like, so what? What do you think? You think the Cowboys are gonna win or what? They'd be like, no, I don't think so. Like, you know, whatever. You're like, hey, well, look, I heard that they've had a good season this year. I've heard that they had a bad season, you know, or I don't really watch football. I just know a lot of people like them, yada, yada. And then you kind of go from there. Do you watch sports? You know, do you watch football? Oh, so you used to play volleyball or you used to play basketball, and you just go from there. Like, you know, conversations don't have to be that hard, but it's overcoming the social anxiety of it that can actually be able to break outside of that, right? So these are just some tips that you guys can use, like whenever you want to have a better conversation, and just really knowing how to like maneuver in a conversation of how to read it, because the quicker that you like are able to understand how to actually keep the conversation going, the more people will actually want to talk to you. The more people will actually want to be vulnerable with you. And that's what a lot of people don't get. So, you know, and that adds to my last point, be vulnerable. You know, some people, they don't want to hear about all the traumatic stuff in your life, right? But other people, they're like, you know what? Like, let's just listen to like who you are. Let's listen to the things that you've been through, because I don't know who you are, right? We just met. And you know, you could be vulnerable. You be like, look, you know, this has happened, or like, you know, that kind of goes back to my story time. Sometimes you can be vulnerable in a story and then they're intrigued, they can feel it, right? They know how to relate to it, things like that. But like, be vulnerable in a conversation. You know, it doesn't have to be super stern, it doesn't have to be super joyful, super playful, but you know, just be able to be relatable, you know? The more relatable you are to a person, the more they'll actually find themselves liking you, for one. But for two, the more they'll find themselves being more open to you to actually tell you like, well, yeah, like I've had a job before, but like I got fired, you know, or like right now I actually don't have a job because, you know, I just don't like working, but I'm trying to figure it out. You know, I'm young, I'm trying to figure out what life looks like, and I don't really know what to do. You know, it's relatable because everyone has been young before and they're trying to figure life out even to this day. But the thing is that like, it's relatable and it's vulnerable and it's something that people can actually talk about, right? And it doesn't have to be super heavy stuff. It doesn't have to be about politics or about what's going on, you know, in the world all the time. It could just be something that like you and that person can relate to, and y'all just have a vulnerable moment, right? And I feel like the best conversations come from vulnerability. They come from relating to what the person has to say, or relating to, you know, a topic about what you, like a mutual interest, right? And then you just kind of move from there to understand how to maneuver in the conversation. If you guys want to get each other's numbers, if you want to get social medias, then you just move from there. But you have to understand how to even start the conversation, how to keep the conversation, and then how to end the conversation. And ending it, you know, if you're in a natural position where you're like, look, we just got to end it, you know, something's going on. Oh, something, you know, like it's time to say happy birthday to someone. Like we got to go, you know, whatever, to the kitchen, or, you know, it's getting late. So how about we just get each other's number? We can talk later. Like you got to know how to end it without it being awkward, right? And so, I don't know, for that part, it really varies. I can't say like, here's what works, but just don't be awkward about it and leave. One thing I'll tell you guys, especially for the fellas, leave on a high note when you're talking to somebody. If you feel like the conversation is starting to get dry, you feel like the conversation is starting to wear out, leave when the conversation is hot, right? When y'all are talking about the stuff, y'all are relating, you're like, well, look, it was nice getting to know you, you know, and if you want to get the socials, if you want to get the number, then get the number, whatever. Like, you seem like a cool person. Let's connect and go from there. And then be like, well, you know, I'm going to go and whatever you were doing before, right? If you guys were on a walk, you know, hey, well, it was good. It was nice getting to know you. I got to go home because I got to feed my dogs. Or, hey, it was nice getting to know you. I'm actually got to get back to working on some stuff. And then you like just end it right there. End it when it's at the top of the conversation, because if you try to force the conversation and keep going, then the person on the last impression is what people are going to remember. People are going to remember, okay, well, you know, it was cool talking to this person, but then like things died out and they actually became super dry. I actually don't remember everything that we were talking about. I just remember that it ended super awkwardly. And now you're in this predicament where you're like, well, I actually like that person. I actually feel like we had a nice little connection, but it ended awkwardly. And now it feels like the whole conversation was a waste. And now you're like, okay, well, like, you're stuck in this hard place where you're like, man, I don't know what to do. And then it makes it hard for the next conversation because now they just remember it just ended badly, right? So you got to make sure you have a good ending impression, because if you don't leave at the top of the conversation, or like when you start to notice it's dying down, then it might not end well for you. So that's really all I got for you guys. Just some tips to keep the conversation going, about how to start it, how to keep it going, and how to end it. But I don't know if y'all see that, something was flying on my face. But yeah, follow me on my socials. It'll be King Malone. Like the video, subscribe, and share with someone that you need, that needs to know how to carry a conversation. Because a lot of people nowadays, they don't know how to carry conversation, and they don't know how to actually have like in-depth conversation. It's all surface level. So share this with someone that needs to know the video. And until then, I will catch y'all in the next video. Gone.